She sat at the very edge of the mahogany table, in clothes too modest for the glittering room. Everyone stared. Whispers flew like knives. She was not blood. She did not belong. But the old man, Mr. Whitmore, had always treated her kindly. Now he was gone, and his powerful, sneering family made it clear she would be forgotten. But what none of them knew was that this will reading would turn their entire world upside down. Everyone else arrived in black limousines. Jade came alone, quiet, head down. The butler almost turned her away until he saw the letter in her hand. It was from Mr. Whitmore himself. "Dear Jade," it read, "come to the reading. You deserve to be there more than anyone." That letter was the only reason she was let past the gates of the Whitmore estate. The mansion was soaked in wealth, crystal chandeliers, walls lined with oil portraits, and a dining table long enough to seat 20. And seated at that table were 20 pairs of eyes, glaring at her. "Who invited the charity case?" whispered a woman in pearls. "I think she used to clean for them, or was she that girl he took in from the community center?" said another. "She is nobody. This is our legacy." Jade swallowed her pride and sat at the far end. She had loved Mr. Whitmore like a grandfather. He had paid for her school books, taught her chess, and listened when no one else did. But now, she felt like a shadow in the room, unwelcome, unseen, and humiliated. The lawyer entered with a thick envelope. His face was unreadable. "This will is unorthodox," he said carefully, "but it reflects Mr. Whitmore's final wishes to the letter." The room stiffened. Let's begin with bequests. He listed items: a vintage car to the youngest son, a diamond brooch to the eldest daughter. Laughter and smug smiles rippled around the room. Jade looked down, trying not to flinch. Then came the deeper divisions. "To my business partner, I leave 10% of the holdings. To my niece, the house in Aspen." Jade heard a chuckle. "No mention of the stray yet," one cousin joked. But the lawyer paused. He turned the page. His voice changed. And finally, every head turned. To Jade Monet. She came with nothing but a letter in her pocket and left holding the fate of an empire. The lawyer spoke her name and the room froze. But what came next shattered everything the Whitmores believed about blood, legacy, and power. Screams, threats, and secrets burst into the open. But yet, beneath the rage, something darker was unfolding. Because Jade had not just inherited a fortune, she had inherited a truth that someone desperately wanted buried. And now, they knew she had it. "To Jade Monet," the lawyer said again, this time with weight. Every head in the room turned. "I leave the remainder of my estate, 74% of my company's shares, intellectual property, and full control of the Whitmore Foundation." The room was silent. The only sound was a glass being dropped. It shattered on the marble floor. Then, "What? She is not even blood." "That girl is a mistake. She was rescued, not raised. She is a stranger." Voices rose like thunder. Chairs scraped. Someone kicked the table leg in rage. But Jade could not move. Her ears were ringing. The lawyer remained calm. This was not a clerical error. Mr. Whitmore confirmed these instructions on video just days before his passing. He pressed play. Mr. Whitmore appeared on the screen, frail but firm. "If you are watching this, then I am gone. And yes, I left it all to Jade. Because she was the only one who saw me as a man, not a machine. She gave without expecting. She loved without conditions." Gasps echoed, but there was more. "I watched my own children sell pieces of me before I was even gone. But Jade? She once gave away her coat to a homeless man at the gates and then told me she would rather be cold than cruel. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room. Then another blow. The lawyer opened a second envelope. There is one more item, a sealed letter, addressed to Jade, in Mr. Whitmore's handwriting, marked urgent. Read alone. He handed it to her. The red wax seal was heavy. The Whitmore crest glinted in the light. Jade stared at it. Her hands trembled. "Wait!" a voice shouted from the far end of the table. It was the eldest son, face pale, voice cracking. "Do not read that letter. Burn it now." Everyone turned. Why would he say that? The lawyer raised an eyebrow. Mr. Whitmore made it clear. The letter must be read, and only by Jade. Now the whole room seemed to hold its breath. Jade clutched the letter and backed away. Because something was wrong. Very wrong. She could feel it, the tension, the fear. Not of losing money, but of what was inside that letter. Suddenly, the will was not the biggest shock in the room. It was the question, who was Jade Monet really?
The letter trembled in Jade's hands. Everyone wanted to see what was inside, but one man begged her not to open it. Why? What were they hiding? As she broke the wax seal, the air shifted. The truth had waited long enough. What she read next explained everything. Why she was brought to that house, why Mr. Whitmore watched her so closely, and why someone in the room might want her silenced. This was not about money. It was about identity. Jade stepped into the hallway, heart racing. Behind her, the Whitmores argued, some whispering frantically into phones, but she could still hear the eldest son's voice echoing in her ears. "Do not open that letter." She slipped into the old study where Mr. Whitmore used to read. It smelled like leather, tobacco, and dust, like memories still lived there. She sat down slowly, then broke the red wax seal. The letter was handwritten, elegant, familiar. "My dearest Jade, if you are reading this, I am no longer by your side. I hope you're sitting somewhere safe, somewhere quiet. What I am about to tell you is the truth no one else ever had the courage to say." Jade swallowed. "You were not a stranger when I met you at the shelter. You were not an accident. You were the child of someone I loved, and someone this family hated." Her breath caught. "Your mother was Rose Whitmore." Jade's eyes widened. Her hands shook violently. "She was my daughter, my hidden daughter. I fell in love once, long ago, with a woman I was not allowed to love. The family made sure she was erased. When she died, I found you and knew who you were, even if you did not." Tears spilled down Jade's cheeks. Her whole body trembled. "I did not speak of it, not out of shame, but to protect you from them." Suddenly, everything made sense. The glances, the silence, the resentment. She had not just inherited money, she had inherited a place that was rightfully hers, and someone had tried to erase her from it forever. Then came the final line. "There is a photo hidden behind the chessboard in my study. Take it. Show it to the lawyer. It proves everything. But be careful, Jade. There was one among them who would do anything to stop this truth from coming out." Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. Slow, cautious, she turned, and standing in the doorway was the eldest son. His face was pale, but his eyes cold. "You read it, did you not?" he said softly. Jade stood, clutching the letter behind her back. "I did," she said. He stepped forward. "Then you know why none of us can let you walk out of this house." He stood in the doorway, the letter behind Jade, and the truth burning in her hands. For years, they buried the past. Now it was screaming to be heard. As the walls of lies crumbled, someone made one last attempt to shut her down. But what they forgot was this: Mr. Whitmore had taught Jade how to play chess, and just like on the board, she knew when to protect her king and when to make the final move. The eldest son stepped into the study, closing the door behind him. The sound of the latch echoed like a warning. "You read it, did you not?" he asked again, voice low and deliberate. Jade backed toward the desk, clutching the letter tighter. "My mother was his daughter, and I am family, real family." He laughed, a bitter, joyless sound. "You think that letter will change anything? The Whitmore name is not for charity cases and strays." Jade's chin lifted. "No, it is for truth, something this house has forgotten." He moved closer. "You expose this and everything collapses. Investors will panic, the board will demand audits, my mother, your aunt, will lose her chair. We built this empire, we kept it alive." "No," Jade whispered, "he built it, and you spent your lives taking it for granted." He reached out, but Jade stepped aside and pulled the letter behind her. Then she said the one thing that stopped him cold. There was a photo hidden behind the chessboard. "It proves everything." He froze, and then that frozen second, Jade ran. She burst from the study, past startled staff, through gasps from the family still arguing in the parlor. "Someone stop her!" a voice shouted. But the lawyer stepped into her path and held out his hand. "Did you find the letter?" he asked calmly. She gave it to him. "Read it, and come with me. I need to show you something." Back inside the study, with trembling fingers, she slid the old chessboard aside. Behind it, taped to the back panel, was a faded photo. Mr. Whitmore, a young black woman, her mother, and Jade, as a toddler, asleep in her arms. The lawyer's eyes softened. This is undeniable." Suddenly, the door burst open again, but this time, it was not the eldest son. It was security. The lawyer turned to the room. "Mr. Whitmore anticipated this resistance. He instructed me to notify the board immediately and to deliver the evidence if Jade was threatened." Jade stood silently as the eldest son was escorted out, still shouting about forgery and legacy. But no one listened anymore. 3 months later, the Whitmore Foundation announced its youngest chairwoman in history, Jade Monette. Her first act, opening 10 new scholarship programs under her mother's name. And when a reporter asked her how she felt having inherited an empire, Jade simply smiled and said, "I did not inherit an empire. I inherited a second chance to do better than those before me." And in the old study where Mr. Whitmore once taught Jade chess, a new plaque hung above the fireplace. "To Jade, my queen on and off the board." If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you feel something deep, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more powerful, life-changing stories like this one. Because here, we tell the stories that others overlook. Thank you for watching.